let's be brutally honest. The only reason you're watching this right now is because a part of you wonders if she even cares that you're gone, or if your silence is echoing into a void where she's already replaced you. And that fear, right there, that uneasy feeling in your chest. That's exactly what keeps men breaking no contact too early, long before it works. But tonight, I'm going to tell you something most men never learn. The woman who walked away from you, or took you for granted, or stopped choosing you, only comes back when she feels the one thing she never expected to feel about you: loss. Not irritation, not guilt, not confusion, loss. And here's the truth nobody says out loud: women don't miss the man they left. They miss the man he becomes once he stops chasing her. That shift, that change, that quiet withdrawal of your energy, it creates a disturbance in her world, the kind she feels in her stomach before she understands it in her mind. But the problem is, most men destroy this entire process by reaching out too soon, trying to check in, trying to keep things peaceful, or trying to remind her you still care. You don't need to remind her. Trust me, she remembers. Women don't forget men who gave them comfort. They forget men who never created contrast, and no contact is contrast. It is the absence of your attention, the attention she assumed would never disappear. But here's the uncomfortable part you must accept. She will not reach out just because you went silent. She will only reach out when something deeper shifts inside her. When the story she told herself about you begins to crumble. When she realizes you aren't sitting in the same place she left you. When she senses that your energy is no longer wrapped around her like a safety net. Women don't panic when a man goes quiet. They panic when a man stops being predictable. And right now, she expects you to break. She expects you to slip. She expects you to fold under the weight of missing her, because that is what most men do. They break no contact at the exact moment it would have started working. They interrupt the very silence that would have made her wonder. They sabotage the very distance that would have made her rethink everything. So let me tell you something rare, something most men never hear. There is only one moment when breaking no contact doesn't destroy your progress, but actually amplifies your power, and you'll recognize that moment not by your emotions, but by hers. Women reveal it in subtle shifts, a change in tone, a sudden softness, a message that doesn't sound like obligation or boredom or curiosity, but discomfort, uncertainty, fear. A woman who truly feels she's losing you doesn't send casual "hey" texts. She sends emotional feelers. She asks things she never cared about before. She becomes inconsistent because her emotional world is starting to destabilize. You break no contact only when she stops acting like the version of herself who took you for granted and starts acting like the version of herself who fears losing you. Until then, silence is not punishment. Silence is clarity. Silence is truth. Silence is the mirror that forces her to see what life looks like without you contributing to it. And I know you feel the pull. I know you want to send that one message. I know you want to relieve the tension. But her silence right now isn't a sign she's moved on. It's a test of your threshold. She's waiting to see if you are who you've always been, or if you've finally become someone she has to respect. Let's continue with the truth most men never want to face. A woman doesn't pull away because she stopped caring. She pulls away because she believed she could. She believed she could step back and you would still be there, still available, still ready to catch her the moment she wandered too far. And no contact disrupts that belief at its core. It forces her to confront a version of you she didn't prepare for. A version of you who isn't waiting, isn't chasing, isn't holding the door open for her return. That's why it's powerful, and that's why it's dangerous. Because the moment you break it too soon, you show her she was right about you all along. But the moment you hold it, truly hold it, you become something she didn't expect. A man with boundaries. And boundaries to a woman feel like value. They feel like strength. They feel like the difference between a man she can play with and a man she must respect. Understand this. Women don't chase men they don't respect. They may desire them, enjoy them, flirt with them, but they do not pursue them. Pursuit is emotional risk, and no contact is the only strategy that makes her feel that risk, because it makes her question what she once believed was guaranteed. But there's something deeper you must understand. the moment she feels you've truly detached, and not in a petty, performative way, but in a calm, grounded, self-focused way, her instincts shift. She moves from evaluation to fear, and fear changes everything. A woman in fear of losing you becomes a different version of herself, and you will hear it in the way she speaks to you. That's why breaking no contact early is like ripping the roots from the soil before the plant has even grown. If she hasn't shifted yet, if she hasn't felt that internal conflict, if she hasn't reached that moment of emotional discomfort, then reaching out will not bring her closer. It will push her further. But here's the quiet detail most men miss. Her breakpoint rarely looks dramatic. Women rarely send grand confessions at first. It's subtle. A message she wouldn't normally send, a question she never asked before, a tone that sounds unsettled. She might ask how you're doing in a way that feels genuine, not polite. She might bring up something specific she remembers about you because she's trying to reconnect to the emotional version of you she didn't appreciate enough. But here's the key. She must show investment, not convenience. Effort, not habit. Emotion, not boredom. Until that shift appears, your silence is not just important, it's essential. Your silence is the space where her clarity grows. Your silence is where her mind starts replaying moments she dismissed. Your silence is where the highlights of your connection grow louder than the mistakes that ended things. Because when a man disappears intentionally, not out of anger, not out of manipulation, but out of self-respect, something primal activates in a woman. She begins to compare you to other men, and that comparison almost always works in your favor. Not because you were perfect, but because so few men are capable of emotional discipline. But hear this with full honesty. If you break no contact before her emotional shift, she will treat your message like validation, not value. She will interpret it as confirmation that she still has you, even if she hasn't earned you. And the moment she feels she still has you, the chase ends. Let's be brutally honest again. The reason no contact feels so heavy for you is because it exposes the truth you've been avoiding. You weren't just attached to her, you were attached to the role you played in her life. The man who comforted her, supported her, answered quickly, showed up when she needed you, and now you're forced to confront what you were afraid to see, that maybe she valued the benefits, not the man. And that realization hurts, because you gave real pieces of yourself to someone who felt safe enough to take them, but not loyal enough to stay. But that pain you're feeling right now, that's the exact pain she must feel for no contact to work. Not the pain of missing the routine, missing you, missing the emotional presence you provided without conditions, missing the man who made her feel chosen even when she didn't deserve it. And here's the twist. Women don't feel that loss through silence alone. They feel it through the energy shift behind your silence. The moment your silence stops being a tactic and becomes a truth, that is when she feels something break inside her. Because women are intuitive. They can feel when your silence is an attempt to manipulate them. They can feel when you're still emotionally clinging to them behind the scenes. And they can feel when you're pulling away, but secretly hoping they'll chase you. None of that triggers a reaction. None of that creates fear. None of that makes her panic. What makes her panic is when she feels you're not waiting anymore. When your silence stops sounding like you're holding your breath for her and starts sounding like you've exhaled and moved forward. That shift is rare for men because it requires surrender, acceptance, growth. And that's why it's powerful, because women know how rare it is. A man who accepts the loss becomes dangerous, not dangerous to her safety, dangerous to her ego, dangerous to her belief that she could walk away and still keep you emotionally orbiting her, dangerous to the part of her that assumed she had more time, more control, more influence over your thinking. And when you reach that point, when she feels that something about you is no longer accessible, no longer predictable, she experiences something she never expected, doubt. Doubt about her choices, doubt about her assumptions, doubt about her replacements, doubt about whether she misjudged your value, because here's a psychological truth. Women don't crave clarity, they crave connection, but they only pursue connection when clarity begins to crumble. So she begins watching you silently, maybe not on your profile directly, but through the emotional breadcrumbs you leave behind. Your unbothered energy, your focus, your absence, your growth. And the moment she realizes you're not hurting out loud, not posting for attention, not signaling your loneliness, she begins to feel something new: insecurity. And insecurity is what flips the dynamic. But remember this carefully. Insecurity in a woman does not show up as a confession. It shows up as curiosity, a sudden interest in your life, a small attempt to break the emotional distance, a question that has no real purpose except for her to check your temperature. This is the moment men misinterpret. They think any message means she's coming back. It doesn't. Some messages are ego checks. Some are boredom checks. Some are attention checks. You only break no contact when the message isn't asking for reassurance, but revealing vulnerability. Until then, hold the line, because the man who breaks silence too early loses her twice, once when she left, and again when he validates her decision. Let's strip away every illusion you've been holding on to, because if you don't face this truth now, you will break no contact at the exact moment you should stay silent. The reason you want to reach out isn't because you miss her too much. It's because you're terrified that if you don't, she'll forget you completely. That fear of being replaced, erased, dismissed is what pushes men to chase women who have already emotionally checked out. But here's what you don't realize. The moment she senses that fear in you, she loses attraction instantly, because fear creates pressure, and pressure makes you predictable. And predictable men never pull a woman back. A woman only comes toward a man when two things collide inside her at the same time: emotional discomfort and emotional curiosity. Discomfort because she senses something slipping. Curiosity because she no longer understands your behavior. Not because you're angry, not because you're stubborn, but because you're calm. That calmness is the shift that threatens her ego. It makes her wonder what changed. It makes her wonder who you're becoming without her. It makes her imagine scenarios she can't confirm, and her mind fills in the blanks with worst-case possibilities. This is the power of no contact when done correctly. It lets her imagination work against her. And women's imaginations are far more powerful than any text you could send. She begins comparing herself to women she thinks you might now be talking to. She replays memories at 2 a.m. that she previously brushed off. She wonders whether she misread your loyalty, your value, your potential. She questions whether she assumed you'd always be there, and whether she just pushed away a man who was far rarer than she realized. But here's the crucial part. None of this happens if you show even one crack in your discipline, one message, one apology she didn't earn, one attempt to check in, and everything resets. She goes back to comfort mode. She goes back to feeling in control. She goes back to thinking she can get you whenever she wants, without investing, without choosing, without committing. This is what men never see. Women don't pull away because they don't care. They pull away because they assume they can return on their terms. No contact removes those terms. And women hate uncertainty more than they hate distance. Uncertainty makes them rethink everything. But men sabotage the entire process by reaching out just as she begins feeling that internal shift. You want to know the moment when you're allowed to break no contact? It's when her behavior contradicts her pride. When she reaches out in a way that shows she's not checking your availability, she's checking your emotional presence. When her tone softens. When her questions deepen. When she shows signs of vulnerability she would never reveal unless something inside her was unraveling. Women don't show softness lightly. If she's showing it, it's because the silence hit her deeper than she expected. But here's the part that requires strength. You must be able to tell the difference between a woman who misses the attention you gave her and a woman who misses you. One wants validation. The other wants connection. One wants reassurance. The other wants reconciliation. And if you mix them up, you will walk straight back into the same dynamic that broke you. Remember, you are not doing no contact to win her back. You are doing it to win yourself back. And only when she approaches you with genuine emotional reflection, not ego, not boredom, not nostalgia, only then does breaking silence serve you instead of ruining you. Let's finish with brutal honesty, because this is the part most men will never hear. The final truth about breaking no contact is this: it is never about her timing. It is always about yours. No contact is not a game. It is not a manipulation tactic. It is a test of your own self-respect, discipline, and emotional growth. And the reason so many men fail is simple. They confuse patience with weakness. They think silence is passive. They think absence is surrender. Nothing could be further from the truth. Silence is power. Absence is influence. And surrender is only for men who allow their fear to dictate their actions. Now, listen carefully. The woman you're thinking about will only truly react when she senses what she has lost is no longer negotiable. She will only approach you when she realizes she can't take you for granted anymore. This is why so many men break contact too early. They don't wait for her emotional cue. They wait for their own comfort. They reach for the phone because it hurts to wait. They send messages because their ego demands reassurance. And every time they do, they erase the very effect they were hoping to create. Women notice everything. They notice your calmness. They notice your absence. They notice when your energy is no longer tied to their approval. But the crucial part, they only act when that absence forces them to confront their own feelings. She doesn't act because she misses you in a casual sense. She acts because she feels a shadow where your presence once existed, and it scares her more than she expected. That's the trigger. That's the moment when you break your silence. But only then. Breaking no contact prematurely is like lighting a candle too early. The flame may burn bright, but it exposes you to everything you were trying to protect yourself from. Waiting until the moment is right is like striking the match at the perfect instant. It ignites the reaction you want without sacrificing your value or emotional leverage. That moment is rare, subtle, and unmistakable if you understand female psychology. It comes in her tone, her choice of words, her vulnerability. It comes when she seeks something from you that she cannot get anywhere else. And here's the final truth. You do not need her to chase you to maintain your power. Your power comes from your ability to remain unattached to her behavior, to focus on your own life, and to create emotional stability in yourself. When you operate from this place, her actions are simply a reflection of what she feels. They are not a measurement of your worth. And that distinction is everything, because too many men break no contact thinking they are winning her back. In reality, they are only losing the only advantage they have, the ability to show her what life without you truly looks like. So, here is your closing challenge. Imagine she has finally reached that point. She sends a message that is vulnerable, uncertain, and unmistakably genuine. Do you respond immediately? Do you wait for her to prove her intentions? Do you craft a careful message that asserts your value without showing desperation? This is not a hypothetical. This is the exact decision that defines whether no contact works or fails. And now it's in your hands. Now I want you to answer this in the comments. If she shows vulnerability and uncertainty, how would you respond to protect your value and maintain your leverage? Write your strategy below. Like this video if it made you rethink your approach. Subscribe for more insights on female psychology, dating dynamics, and self-improvement. Share this with a friend who needs to hear this tonight.